Hello. So, if you watched the last video, you might have caught on to a secret, which is that I'm 23 and you are,
29.
which is, he takes a sip of coffee, grumpy that he's 29, but, which is what the good people may call an age gap. Is it the biggest age gap to exist? No. We've been dating for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years and change. Two
Yeah,
years,
some
5 months, six
Yeah,
months.
almost 2.5.
Almost 2.5. And so when we met, I was 21 and he was 26, actually. So
A
it's
month
like
before I turned 27.
yep, nothing like a good jump there. And so that's a little bit of an age gap. And so we're gonna give some advice on how to manage age gap in relationships, and also people's reactions to age gap in relationships, monitoring those, and general advice for dating people who are younger and older than you.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. First rule. I'm gonna start with the first rule because it's a minute in. I know people are still gonna be here a minute in. Don't date minors. If you are not a minor, don't date minors. Don't think about it. The second you find out someone is under the age of 18 and you are over the age of 18, there's some soft spots there. So say you're 19 and you're a senior in high school and your girlfriend's also is like 17 and a senior in high school because she was born in Michigan and Michigan starts school different. That's a special case. I don't mind special cases that are like tight and you're in the same academic year or something like that. Things happen, you know? But if you're 19 and she's 16 and you meet her when she's 16, that's a no for me. That's a big no for me.
I would even say, as a general rule, if you're over 20, don't date under 20.
Yeah. That's a lighter rule because like 20, 19,
Yeah, there's some people who are 20 and 19 or something like that. But the reason I say this is that when you are 21, 22, 23, you're young enough that you imagine you have more in common with an 18 or 19-year-old than you probably do. If you're someone who's graduated from undergrad, or in the senior year of undergrad, you don't have as much in common with a first-year student as you think you do.
Yeah.
And the reason I mention this is because you are exceptionally likely in those early 20s to make the mistake of thinking that those people are comparable to you in maturity. They're not.
And they're not, and it's dangerous to date them because they're not mature enough to handle it.
They're gonna do stuff that you're not gonna like, and once you leave them, they're gonna be distraught and upset.
Yes, because it's too much. It's too confusing. Don't do it. You'll hurt people if you do that. And
You'll make mistakes.
And that's the thing.
It's an easy mistake to make.
I've been these, 18-year-olds trying to date 30-year-olds. I've been them. Like, I'm not going to say that it's not something that you can fall into, but luckily for me, when I was really young, nobody that much older than me ever really responded to my interest. Yeah. Because that's the responsible way to handle a girl who's too young for you flirting with you, or a boy who's too young with you flirting with you, is not being like, oh, that's whatever, but just kind of just ignoring it and not being like, well, she seems mature enough. Because, you feel mature enough, but you're not when you're 16.
Yeah, and the much older guys are taking advantage, but there's a guy who's just a little bit too old who doesn't realize that it's not a good dynamic. And I've been that guy. I was 21 and dated someone who was 18, and it's not a good thing to do. And I think the main reason it's not a good thing to do is that by the time you're in your 20s, you start to have a bit of a sense of self. And someone who is 18 is still very much trying to discover life and discover new institutions and discover who they are on their own, especially when they go off to college for the first time, live away from home, live away from family. They're trying to figure out how to do that, how to live life. And when you're dating someone who's 18 and you're 21, you're going to define their reality for them. You're going to step into the role that their parents were playing, and you're going to overstructure their life and how they feel and their emotions. You're going to play too large a developmental role, and that's not the role that a partner should play.
Yeah. So everybody heard that, right? Don't be James Charles. Don't talk to 16-year-olds once you're past 18. That's just not what you do. That's not how you healthily date when you're a grown-up and you want to date someone who's slightly older or younger than you. That's out of the rules. All right, we got that out of the way. Now we can be a little more nuanced.
Okay. So assuming that you're dating somebody who isn't that young,
I think 21's fair. I think once you're 21, you can date pretty much any age. I've also heard there's also the half your age plus 7 is the youngest you should go. So if you're 20, they would say 17. I think that's bad.
Yeah, I think even that can be a little bit much.
Well, so that's a, I've heard that one before.
At the same time, I think there's a lot more room once you're a little bit older.
Yeah, once you're older. Because, so here's the thing. I'm 21, he's 26 when we meet. I'm a year and a half away from graduating from undergrad. I wasn't planning on going to grad school at the time, so I would be walking into my adult life and finishing up my education life. He had about a year and a half left of his PhD. He was also in a position where he was walking into regular life and professional life. So we were in the same position in our lives. We were both students, and that made us a little more compatible and in a similar space mentally in terms of how we were looking at life.
Yeah, different kinds of students, but...
Students.
We were in the same kind of institution, but we were in different institutions. She wasn't in the same university as me, but I think even more importantly, she wasn't in the same subject. It wasn't like I was teaching the subject that she was taking. I think that would have been a little bit more difficult. I think if you were an undergraduate student in my subject, that would have been...
Well, I'm a little bit too old to be anybody that you taught, though, right? Or were
No,
you
you're not.
Oh, sure.
You're not too old to be the age of people I've taught.
Oh my goodness! But we weren't in the same school, so it's never like we had a student-teacher dynamic.
And she wasn't in my subject, so there was no possibility.
I studied STEM.
The main issue with that is a power dynamic. If you have the ability to influence somebody's grades, then relationship necessarily takes on a certain power.
Same for boss-worker dynamics as well. You have to be careful around those.
Something to be concerned about. But in our case, it was a different subject, so that wasn't
not even the same, not even the same place. So that didn't really impact us too badly. But I think that's a also. Oh shoot! I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I have something. I think that there's a certain kind of guy who has a hard time dating somebody who is their age or older.
Why?
I have just observed over the years that there are a lot of people in undergrad, a lot of guys who just can't really make it work, in part because they take things a little bit too seriously. And I think when you're the older person, the fact that you are a little bit intense or take things a bit seriously is often appealing to a younger person who wants to date someone older. But when you are the same age or a younger person, that level of intensity can be off-putting for somebody. I think there are a lot of guys who are a little bit intense, a little bit serious, who come off as a bit much for their peers or for people they may be interested in dating who are a little bit older than them. But once they're a little bit older and they're mellowed out a little bit because they're a little bit older, a younger person is more likely to find that seriousness comforting and reassuring.
One time you told me that you felt like a lot of girls who wanted serious relationships were already in relationships with older men when you were the same age as them.
Yeah, I think a lot of girls who are interested in a lot of seriousness tend to date a little bit older to get that seriousness. I think in general, if you want seriousness, then you tend to want to date someone who's a little bit older, because people who are older tend to take relationships more seriously. As a general rule in people who are younger.
So if you want to date someone younger, what are you looking for then?
If you want to date somebody younger, then you are looking to have a little bit more fun and to have a little bit more of a adventurous, relaxed, fun, humorous, exciting dynamic.
So you think I'm fun?
Well, I think that each of us kind of wants something which the other one has. I think that you're very fun, and I think that I'm stuffy and serious, right?
I think you're fun.
I'm fun in our relationship through you. You make me fun. You bring out the things in me that are fun, and I take you seriously.
Yeah, and these are stereotypes. Some age gap relationships probably could have that flip.
Yeah, we're speaking in generalizations, but I do think that in general, it's often the case that the man is, because generally the man is older and the woman is younger in these relationships.
Statistically, it's true.
Statistically, generally the man is looking for someone who's more lighthearted and more fun, and the woman is looking for someone who's more serious, who will take her seriously.
I like being taken seriously,
But of course, the genders can be different on that, and there are always exceptions to every rule. But I think that's a lot of what people often find appealing in age gap relationships.
I always wanted to date my age or older.
I didn't want to date people who would constantly have 30-something conversations with me. You know, not to rag on 30-year-olds, but 30-somethings tend to talk a lot about stuff like their house or their job or just elements of their life. And in my experience, younger people are more interested in talking about high-concept stuff because they're not immersed in a job or in a boring life of some kind that dominates their every waking moment.
Okay.
So they can be more creative and more free-floating in general. And then in your case, you read a lot of fiction. You are a very creative and imaginative person in the first instance. All of that's really fun for me because I like to have conversations about abstract stuff. I don't like to talk about how to decorate a space or this kind of stuff just doesn't do it for me.
No.
But it's what 30-somethings talk about all the time. Different foods they've eaten, different activities they've done.
So do you feel like,
they like.
Dating younger also kind of preserves your youth? Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think for a lot of people who are just a bit older, it helps to avoid the aspects of being older that you don't want to engage with just yet. If I was dating somebody who was 32, there would be immense pressure on me to quickly make a ton of money so that we could have kids.
Yes.
Right. But if I date somebody who's half a decade younger than me, I have a lot more space temporally to work on these things. I don't have to hurry up and throw it all together.
That's true because I'm not ready to have kids. So.
Right. Yeah. I think that's another major factor.
I think so too. It's the element of time where it's like we could be dating for another 5 years before, or we could get married and then not have kids for a while, and I still have a lot of biological clocky time to have children.
Right, it means a lot less pressure, which means my career is something I can do in the way that I want to do it, rather than based on what produces security immediately.
I also think, I always had a preference for dating my age or older, and you seem to have a little bit of a preference for dating your age or younger. And I think just beyond that, sometimes you can fall into relationships where there are age gaps, and you can really just fall in love with someone who's not even in what you consider normal in terms of like your dating things, especially because it's really hard to find a partner. If anyone single is watching this, it's really hard to find a partner who fits, your interests and your needs and intellectually and your personality and all those things. And sometimes age is just a little add-on, we know some people with some age gap relationships, and it seems like that's not part of...
I know people who are friends of mine with larger age gaps than we have who have made it work.
Who would think it's kind of silly that we're sitting here talking about
an age gap relationship that's only half a decade. My parents are 6 years apart.
Yeah. So, like, for him, it was very normal. But, like, my parents were a month apart. My mother was a month older than my father. And most of my family, 2 years older is pretty normal. Any more than that is a big age gap. And it caused a little bit of uncomfortableness because of my age and then the age of Benjamin when we first started dating. Because at the beginning it's I'm 21, he's 27, and I started talking to people.
Families also tend to be a little bit more protective of daughters and of the younger person. So I think the fact that you were the younger person and the girl caused your family to be more protective. Whereas my parents know that I'm a wonderful person who means no harm to any creature on the planet.
Yes.
So,
I also knew his brother for a very long time before I met him.
My younger brother.
His younger brother. So his younger brother is the same age as my older sister, which also caused a little bit of turmoil there. But in terms of people's comfort, because I'm dating someone who's older than my oldest sibling.
Yeah, my little brother knew you when you were a kid.
Yes, he did.
So.
And I really like his brother. I think his brother's an excellent person. So I was kind of sitting here and I'm like, when we first started talking, I felt like you weren't the kind of guy who'd just be trying to like manipulate me or take advantage of my youngness because I knew your brother and he was such a nice guy.
It's going to be weird for people like my brother probably that someone that he knew when it would definitely have been inappropriate for us to date is now dating me, right? Because at the time that he knew you, our age gap was such that it would have been
I would have probably been 14.
If we'd been dating. Right, so then I would have been 20 and that would have been not at all okay.
So that's kind of why I think we felt our age gap a little more than other people is we started dating right when it was like acceptable and comfortable
Probably
and healthy.
About as early as we could have been dating and had it not be too much.
Yeah.
I think if we'd met 2 years earlier, that would have been.
Because I would have been 19.
Yeah.
So, I think it worked out very nicely.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I also think that there's a little bit of a generational dynamic because although we're only half a decade apart, I am usually classified as a millennial and she's usually classified as a Zoomer.
An old Zoomer. I lead the way for the Zoomers. Like,
because she's born in 97 and I'm born in 92.
Yes.
I noticed that some differences in generational culture and the way that your
Humor.
friends relate to each other.
How my friends, the way my friends talk to me and how we talk to each other is a little bit different from how your friends talk to each other.
Yeah.
But I'm a little more comfortable with it because I had older siblings, so I'm not like so detached from people in your age groups that I feel,
Yeah, I think for me, it's you have the culture of a lot of the people that I taught while I was at Cambridge, so that makes you feel especially young to me sometimes.
Fair enough. Usually I don't notice it. I don't think about him being that much older than me.
You really were at the thin end of what I could have considered possible for myself. I was definitely not looking to date anybody any younger.
Yeah. I think that's, pretty good. You just got to be a little responsible about it, and you got to be a little bit prepared for, especially if you're the younger person or the girl, for people to be a little bit concerned.
Well, and people look at you with a bit of suspicion if you're the guy.
Yeah.
If it's the kind of age gap relationship that worries them, then they look at you as the guy as, what are you up to?
Are you doing something suspicious?
Are you trying to do something you shouldn't be doing?
Yeah. Because nobody, in our current culture, nobody really makes the rules for age gap. There's not like a...
Nobody really makes the rules for anything in dating anymore.
Nobody... Yeah, we're all just going and, trying to do our best here. But... a lot of people have created their own rules in their head of what's an acceptable age gap, and you'll come across people who won't think your age gap is acceptable, especially early.
I mean, we said that certain age gaps we don't think are acceptable.
Yeah, that's true. We did just do that.
We did that in the first few minutes of the video.
So it's you might come across people who don't think it's okay. Yeah. I will stick by that's just true.
We're just in a bit of a normative vacuum where there aren't clear norms for how to relate to other people, and the main way that you prove that something works is to stick with it long enough. If you stick with a relationship for long enough, people will go, okay, I was skeptical, but it seems to be working for them.
Yeah.
We're over 2 years, and now, if anything, there are probably people in your family who are going, when are they going to get married?
Yes, well, I have a Catholic family. I don't know if you can tell from my red hair, but I am an Irish Catholic, or at least I was raised Irish Catholic. And so, yeah, everybody's like, oh, you've been dating for 2 years, so it's time to get married.
Yeah.
And
my parents were together for half a decade before they got married.
So
my family, if anything, they would think it would be premature to get married after just 2 years.
Yeah. So, there's always a little bit of family differences there, but that's pretty normal. And,
Yeah.
So, if you want to wrap up? Or you got anything else to say? Is there anything else important about dating with an age gap?
Anything else important? I mean, you have to be comfortable with the possibility that I might die way before you.
Sad, but also could be me. Never know when a bus is coming.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Anything can happen.
So it's more important to find someone that you really get along with and stuff than focusing on something like, oh, he's going to die first. Or
I always go to the dark stuff.
I don't know. I don't need the dark. So, yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
In conclusion, don't date minors if you're not a minor, ever. Be prepared for people to be a little bit negative about your dating someone with an age gap. It might make people uncomfortable depending on the age gap, but you should do what you want to do because, it's your life and your happiness.
Well, I don't know about do what you want to do. Do what you think is right.
Okay, that's better. But, feel fulfilled inside. I want people to feel fulfilled inside in their relationships,
Yeah. Generally, real lasting fulfillment comes from doing what you take to be good, not just whatever you want. Okay. Sometimes doing whatever you want isn't the right move. Sometimes you want the wrong things.
So what is the takeaway then?
The takeaway is look at the other person that you're thinking about dating seriously. Is the relationship going to benefit them?
Yes, very
Are you
important.
going to make their life better by dating them?
Yep.
Or are you going to damage their life or their trajectory in some way? I think it's important. A lot of people just think, do I like this person? Is this something I want? But the thing that I've learned over the years is that it's more important to think, will this relationship benefit both of us? Will it be good for both of us? Will it make us both stronger people? And I think a lot of the people who end up getting into bad relationships with people who are too young, if they thought about it that way instead of just thinking about what they want or who they're attracted to, a lot of harm could be prevented.
I think that was very wise.
Oh, thank you.
He found out that I liked him because we went on a little coffee outing together. But this is the first time we met him. And then my sister asked what I thought of him. And I said, he reminds me of a wise old man. Because that's how he talks. He just says things like that sometimes, and then you feel enlightened. And my sister tells his brother, and then his brother tells him. And he took that as an amazing compliment.
Yeah, I focused on the wise part rather than the old man part.
Ah, petit old man. So, yes. Not only think of yourself, but think of your effect on others.
Yeah.
And also think of yourself. What will make you a better person?
Yeah.
You know?
Ideally, it should be mutual.
Yes, ideally you should help each other grow.
Not just you both like each other, but you both help each other. You'll
help
both
each other reach goals and, fulfillment. Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to us today.
Yes, it was wonderful talking about relationships.
Yeah. If you like this stuff, we might do more of it.
Yeah.
Feel free to suggest other things you might want us to talk about.
Yeah, because we've got 2.5 years
We really like talking.
We like talking.
We'll talk about anything you want.
So yeah, if you want to hear anything else about, relationship advice things or anything like that.
Anything you want.
Go ahead and leave a comment. And if you have any opinions on it, go ahead and leave a comment as well.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.